Fine friends, I want to tell you about a cookie. If I call this cookie a strange cookie, I do so only with a certain amount of care. This cookie, actually 4 or 5 cookies, melded into a single cookie loaf at the bottom of a special waxy cookie bag, was dairy-free, vegan, contained a generous quantity of blueberries, and was made with lavender flour, giving it a subtly soapy savor, enough to cleanse the palate without making you sorry for your last swear word. I suppose if I wanted to, I could force a metaphor linking this giant lavender cookie and the novel in progress, The Volcano's Daughters, both creations of Gina Balibrera. But instead, leaving that task to your imaginations, I want to go back to this idea of strangeness, the weird. Recent events have given me some authority on this topic, I think. Last week, in an effort to maximize productivity by minimizing distraction, I asked a friend of mine to change my Facebook password for me so I couldn't log in. Thus, several times a day, I found myself, after checking both emails and their empty spam folders, on yahoo.com, where, without much trouble, you can find stories and videos belonging to their odd news feature. In the absence of Facebook, I've heard some amazing things about a Georgia man's $62,000 water bill, the professional wrestling cameos of that actor who played Mr. Belding on Saved by the Bell, and about a short man's unlikely revenge on high-heeled shoes in South Korea. Unlikely, unusual, strange, weird. He stole the shoes from wherever he could find them, at the entrances of schools, restaurants, and homes, and dumped them in local parks, according to Yahoo. Writers in this room may already be appraising this anecdote's potential for fictional representation. Well, you're in luck, because you couldn't find a better model for such an endeavor than Gina Balibrera's prose. In a blog post for MQR last spring called Unnecessary Mangoes, Color Me Weird, Gina meditates brilliantly on her complicated relationship to the strange. In her post, she admires writers like Leslie Tenorio, a reader on this stage last year, whose magic resides not in the strangeness of the events he writes about, but in the hidden emotional beauty of his characters. Still, even the best writers who engage with the weird put themselves at risk, as Gina says, of having that emotional humanity of their characters overlooked or simplified because of their story's strangeness. Yet, how else to tell the story, Gina asks? How can writers of color write about authentic human strangeness without being dismissed as merely strange? Gina's fiction, through a certain kind of restless self-awareness, occupies this tight space between the weird or unlikely and the true. In the first chapter of The Volcano's Daughters, which you're about to hear, watch for the way that the harmony of her narrator's voices, yes, 4 dead girls telling the same story together, shifts into disharmony when the stubborn Lourdes disagrees about a scene in which a cloud of butterflies attacks a man from the Capitol. That never happened, she insists. How do you expect anyone to believe this nonsense? And later, in chapter 2, Angelica's mother swears that she's never seen her daughter's face change, though Angelica herself knows it has. And again, in one of my favorite scenes, Angelica and her mother visit Madame Esmeralda, a visionary fluent in ancient rites. Mother and daughter sit on cushions in Esmeralda's parlor, holding hands, their eyes closed, while all manner of otherworldly sounds rove about them. Then, when Angelica finally permits one naughty eye to crack, she knows for certain that Madame Esmeralda is nothing but a crock of shit. Still, this ingenious shifting back and forth between the strange and the true means little without, as in Tenorio's stories, an ore of emotional humanity strong enough to take whatever shape Gina chooses. Leaving the underwhelming visit with Madame Esmeralda, Angelica sees a long wrinkle carving the skin above her mother's brows and reads in this a sadness she had never noticed before in her mother's face. Heartbreaking, now in the arena of authentic emotion, more magic has been dispelled. But the magic of Gina's fiction is less like that big lavender cookie than like those attacking butterflies. Beautifully shimmering, yet not without violence. always shifting, never quite settled, and wonderfully weird, but absolutely conceivably possible. It's some of the strangest, truest stuff I've ever read, not to mention delicious. So please join me in welcoming my fine friend, Gina, to the stage.